Shabbat shalom, family.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
This is Amanda and Caleb. We're just speaking on another topic that we came across, another deep treasure that yahuah has baraked us with, and we just wanted to share it with you guys. And my wife has a little story she'd like to share with y'all.
So, I do want to get into a little backstory of how we even started on this about the morning start of the Shabbat. But the reason why we're doing this video is because I reached out to a fellowship finder group, and I actually got in touch with someone. It was a while back that I got in touch with them, but she finally responded and we got to talking, and she keeps evening Shabbat and now we keep morning Shabbat. But she did say, what you're going to see right here, is that she was open to reproof, and that takes a lot of humility. Not a lot of people want to see scripture differently or different from the lens that they were taught with, and which a lot of us have struggled with. Some people feel that they've known something for so long and they don't want to change. So that definitely sparked something like, honey, I want to share this truth. You know, we're not out here to teach. It's like, I want to share what we saw when we read it, and just encourage everybody who's watching to study it slow, read it without lenses, and just go through it and get your Strongs out and just dig like we did. Do you want to share about what happened when this? Well, I want to say one more thing. Okay. So when we started keeping Shabbat, I was reading in Genesis, and I didn't understand why it said evening and morning were the first day. It just really puzzled me. And I'm like, honey, I don't understand. How is evening and morning the first day? I just never understood it. And one time someone texted me back and was looking at the calendar, and they're like, oh, it does say in the scripture, like evening and the morning. Mm-hmm. But I was like, that don't even make sense, you know, like, cause I was trying to convince them of the Sabbath. And I was like, when I even read it back from their message, I didn't see how that made sense. And so, you know, we just kind of went along with it. Why do we keep Shabbat evening to evening? Well, because that's what the Jewish people do, you know, over in Israel. That's what they've done for so long. And that's just what it is. Like, don't question it, because their answer is that evening and morning were the first day. And so when I started to just dig with like conviction and rereading this, like, it really struck me, the things that I saw. And then I started sharing it with my husband.
And my wife started sharing this information with me, and it caused actually a really big, severe argument, to the point to where I was actually living at my boss's house for a whole week, and just in my mind, contemplating in my mind, we just started observing the Sabbath, and now all of a sudden things are changing again, and just truth is just, it felt to me at the time, was just all over the place, and I just wanted answers. I'm the type of person, like, you give me an overview of what to do and kind of the direction and the path, and like, we can execute it and get it done. But I was just having missing pieces, and it was just confusion. But through that time of me staying at my boss's house for a week, I ended up looking into it, you know, just because I know what the scriptures say, and I know from experience of even coming to the conclusion that we should keep the Sabbath, and studying. You got to study to show yourself approved. And, you know, I knew that I had to at least study this out, whether she was right or I was right. So there was a lot of division and discord in the house and arguments, and I would have been keeping evening to evening Shabbat, and she would have been keeping sunrise to sunrise. And, you know, a house divided cannot stand. And so we both knew that this had to get situated, but my wife didn't push this on me. This was all yahuah revealing this to me through scripture, through my wife again. And there was just confirmation after confirmation when I just kind of laid my pride aside and my beliefs, so to say, in my view on the Shabbat. And I looked at it. I just looked at it through a different lens. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, why does it say that, you know? And oh wow, that's even deeper. It's just everything started to make a lot more sense. And to be honest, I couldn't find nowhere else in scripture where it says evening to evening. Like, it's just nowhere to be found.
Besides the Day of Atonement.
Besides, the Day of Atonement. That's evening to evening. And that specifically says evening to evening. And I know Yahuwah, he's very specific in his words. So,
all right, let's get into it. Okay. Let's get this over a little so we can share. Can you see it?
Yeah. In the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Ruach of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. And Elohim said, "Let light come to be, yahuah." And light came to be. That word came to be is yahuah. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, day one. And Elohim said, let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the expanse, and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse Shamayim, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the second day. Bereshit, Genesis 1 through 8.
All right, so like he said, the word came to be is yahuah, which means it came to be, or it was, or it came to pass. So we see that once he said, let light come to be, and it came to be, there was a process of time that happened. He said, let it become, and then it became, okay? And then he saw the light was good. He separated the light from the darkness. And then Elohim called the light day. So that's literally saying that is the day. And the darkness he called night. So darkness was not named until he created the light, which was day. And then now he took that darkness and he now called it night. So, and there came to be yahuah, evening, and there came to be morning, day one. So when I started reading this, I said, how did evening come first? Because the first thing that yahuah, which means came to be, is light. So light was the first thing that came to be. And then you have evening. And then you have morning, which takes you back to the light. So it starts with light and the day ends with light. And so even the KJV will agree with this, is that, and it does, it says that evening and morning were the first day. So it ends with morning, right? So it starts with light and ends with light. And that was day one. So that means that y'all created during the daytime, just like we work during the day. We get up in the bokar, the light, and we go to work. And then we come home in the evening, we rest. That was the end of our work day. And then we go back to work the next morning. So when people say that evening and morning were first, that's nowhere in there that was first. I think we just have taken
autopilot.
That. Yeah, it's like it's interpretation that we've heard. We just skip right past it. And like I said, when I read this from the very beginning, it made absolutely no sense to me. Like, how is evening and morning? So for the evening to evening people, a serious question I'm asking, because I had to ask myself, if evening and morning were the first day, then why is Sabbath not kept from evening to morning?
Well, not only that, if evening and morning, that's what we go by. Another question is to be like, well, we come out of Christianity, right? Asking all these different truths, and we came to this movement, so to say, the truth. And I believe, as believers of the way, we can fall back into picking up what the traditions of men have already established. Mm-hmm. We think just because, the Jews in Israel, they keep it from evening to morning, we just automatically assume. For me personally, I just speak for myself. The crowds of this movement, we fell into just the surface level of it. We messed up intellectually, we mistakenly made the mistake again to just fall into what other people are saying versus testing everything. Even if it's truth, we still need to test it and study to show ourselves approved.
Line upon line and precept upon precept. Because like you're saying, we did jump into this.
Yes.
And we've still had to change a lot. I mean, there was so much we had to change. We started going to a Seventh-day Adventist church when we first found out about the Sabbath.
Yep.
Because that was the closest fellowship to us. And
that kept Sabbath that we knew about.
And the thing is that this is off topic, but they taught us a lot of stuff that was so deep. I was like, gosh, like, how do they know all this?
Yeah,
even the name. Like, they taught us about the name. But our pastor told us, the name, that's his name. He said Jehovah. He was like, his name is Jehovah, but it's his character that matters. His name, so they still called him, they never called him by his name. And so, like, just things like that, how little bits and pieces that we hear, but you have part of it, you know, like, you have passion, but you don't have the whole truth, you know, regardless of how you pronounce his name. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's the fact that you're saying something matters, but then you don't apply it, or like, let me study it out, you know, or if we have questions, he's like, oh, because I even asked him, I was like, so is that really his name? It really was moved that many times. Oh yeah, but that's not what matters. It's his character that matters. So for me, it is important that we study, and he is showing us so much more truth and like errors and like
it's gotten to the point. It's just, we definitely do not know what we should know, let alone we don't know a lot. We just don't know a lot.
And I would say it's understandable though, because of like how much truth that has been hidden.
Well, not only that, it proves to me his character. He's just so infinite and just beyond our comprehension that just even this book that he's given us on this planet is just not even a grain of sand in the beach of knowledge that he's blessed us with that is still being unpacked. Yeah. There's just so much.
So, that was good information. Thank you for that. Yeah, so,
get back on topic.
All right, going back to this. So, yahuah was the first thing that was made. Then we have evening, and then we have morning, which now makes the first day. So, if the day starts in evening, okay, think about this.
I really hope that slurping ain't loud when I drink.
If the day starts in the evening, you have now erased all his first day of creation. So these are my notes that I went through trying to explain it to my husband. Chicken scratch. But you got day one. What did he create on day one? Let's look at what he created on day one. The earth, the light. He separated the light from darkness. Okay. He brought forth evening, which also evening means a rev. The word evening is a rev, which means half light, half dark. Yeah. Okay. So you can't have evening without the light. Okay.
It's a mixture. It's a transitional period between, you have the light and you have the darkness. The evening is there, just like the bakar or morning. You have the transition of the light and a little bit of the darkness. It's that transitional period, the in between period of the two. Okay. And it's very distinguishable. It's very different from night and day. Yeah. Period.
If I'm shaking, it's because I'm a little.
It's a little chilly.
It's a little chilly out here. All right. So day 2, what did he create? The expanse. He separated the water. Okay. Day 3, dry land, the sea, the grass, the plants. Day 4, 2 great lights, stars. So again, if we say evening came first, you are now erasing everything that happened before evening, which also would put him working on the Sabbath. If you start in the evening, the day starts in the evening. You've erased all of his work. So if we were to work during the day, right? We worked during the day. They didn't have electricity back then. They worked during the day. You are now pushing forward his work to fall on the Sabbath. I can draw a little diagram to show what I'm trying to explain, but
you can draw something or find a picture and post it, because visuals, a lot of people can. This is a lot easier for visuals, you know.
Okay. All right. So okay, let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. So, yeah.
Okay. Bereshith 1:16 through 18. And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And Elohim placed them in the expanse of the Shamayim to give life on the earth, or to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. Bereshit, Genesis 1:16 through 18.
All right, so the greater light, what did that rule?
That ruled the day.
All right, and the lesser light ruled?
The night and the stars.
And the stars. So why would Yah start the day with the lesser light when the greater light ruled the day? Like, I don't believe Yah is going to start something with something lesser. Because we see that darkness in the beginning was void. That was chaos. It was chaos. There was no order. Because the word light comes from the word, what is it, or? Light is or?
Yeah.
And that means order.
Order.
Structure.
Yeah. Order.
Yeah, order. So the greater light ruled the day. He now has order in place. The lesser light rules the night. So there's order here. You got day, night. Okay, you got day, night. You got light and darkness. So the light and the day is what comes first on that one.
And Moses stretched out his rod over the land of Mitzrayim, and Yahuah brought an east wind on the land all that day and all that night. Morning came, and the east wind brought the locusts. Shemoth, Exodus 13. Exodus chapter 10, verse 13.
So it says, all that day and all that night, and then morning came. So morning didn't come until after the night. Again, let's go back to creation. We've got to keep account of creation, okay? This, like, each verse doesn't establish a day. We got to go back to when creation was established. Use those verses, line upon line and precept upon precept, and work them together. And, okay, you got, say the little thing about the fence post.
The fence post? Oh, yeah. So I learned something about fence posts. So say you're on a farm and you see a whole straight line. Envision yourself looking at a straight line of fence posts, just 50 of them. And you see one of them that's bent out, and now your fence is wobbly, and you can clearly see that one that's out of place. So now the question is, do you go and move all these other fence posts to line up with the one that's off balance to make it fit right? Or do you just address that fence post that's off, that single fence post, and align it back with the straight ones to get your straight, clear path again?
So, like, with these verses, you know, we can't just take one verse and build a doctrine off of it. We got to take verse, line upon line, and precept upon precept, put them all together, and let's see what the majority of all of these are saying, okay? And again, let's go back to creation. What established? What was first? You know, darkness was chaos. Then you have light that came to be. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for that one.
And there's so many witnesses. They're all witnesses.
And there's a lot of verses, but we spent the last 2 nights trying to refresh our memory on these, and there's so many. So we're only going to go through like maybe 19 or probably like just the top ones or whatever, but there's so many. There's like 200 to 250 verses that seem to start the day with the morning.
And it's just fixing that fence post. Now you can see all the other ones. So this is Bereshit, Genesis 19, 33 through 34. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. And it came to be, there's that word again, on the next day, that the firstborn said to the younger, "See, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine together, or let us make him drink wine tonight as well, and you go in and lie with him, so that we keep the seed of our father." And I just wanted to point something out there too that I noticed. You know, they specifically said, "See, I lay with my father last night." If the night is supposed to be the start of a new day, they should have said, "See, I lay with my father at the beginning of the day," or "I lay with my father today," you know. But they specifically said, "And it came to be on the next day." They clarify that after the night portion, after they slept with their father, came the new day.
So some people can say, well, that's just when the daylight starts, right? Well, that's just when the daylight starts. Well, like, okay, make it make sense though to me. If that's when the day starts, then why are we saying the day starts in the evening?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, even, for example, like us, the Gregorian calendar, okay, the day starts at midnight. But our common sense says tomorrow, you know, because we're talking about in the morning, like outside of biblical context, like last night or tomorrow. We're not going by the midnight or like, oh, midnight, and we're going to say, like, no, like, it's common sense. Like, for me,
Everybody still gets up in the day, goes to work, and does what they do for 6 days, you know, and now we have electricity and stuff now, so that gives us the capability to work in the evening times.
Okay, so on this one, it says that she laid at night, they laid at night, and then she rose the next day, and then laid with my father last night. It says, let us make him drink wine tonight as well. So it's establishing tonight, today, tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep. Exodus 16, starting at verse 4. And yahuah said to Moshe, see, I am raining bread from the Shamayim for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, in order to try them, whether they walk in my Torah or not. Verse 5, and it shall be on the 6th day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Verse 6, and Moshe and Aaron said to the children of Yisrael, at evening you shall know that yahuah has brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. Verse 7, and in the morning you shall see the esteem of yahuah, for he hears your grumblings against yahuah. And what are we that you grumble against us? Verse 8, and Moshe said, in that yahuah gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to satisfaction. For yahuah hears your grumblings which you make against him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against yahuah. Verse 12. I have heard the grumblings of the children of Yisrael speak to them, saying, at evening you are to eat meat, and in the morning you are to be satisfied with bread. And you shall know that I am yahuah your Elohim. And it came to be on the 6th day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moshe. And he said to them, this is what yahuah has said. Tomorrow is a rest, a Shabbath, Kodesh to yahuah. That which you bake, bake, and that which you cook, cook. And lay up for yourselves all that is left over, to keep it until morning. And they laid it up till morning, and Moshe commanded, and it did not stink, and no worm was in it. And Moshe said, eat it today, for today is a Shabbath to yahuah. Today you do not find it in the field. Gather it 6 days, but on the 7th day, which is the Shabbath, there is none. And it came to be that some of the people went out on the 7th day to gather, but they found none. And yahuah said to Moshe, how long shall you refuse to guard my commands and my Torah? See, because yahuah has given you the Shabbath, therefore he is giving you bread for 2 days. On the 6th day, let each one stay in his place. Do not let anyone go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day.
All right, so I know you can explain this one probably a little bit better than me, but so on the 6th day, there's twice as much bread. So, okay, let's go back. Let's see. So, okay. So right here we see that he's telling them he's going to bring bread down, right? And it's a day's portion, a whole day's portion, okay? And it says, at evening you will know that, at evening you shall know that yahuah has brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. And in the morning you shall see the esteem of yahuah, right? So you got, in the evening, you will know, in the morning you will see the esteem. He will give you meat to eat in the evening. And then in the morning, so you got the meat in the evening. And then in the morning, the bread. And so on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread. Yeah. And then it says, tomorrow is a Shabbat.
I mean, know by the cycle that they were going that they knew even the worms and stuff. They were confused on like, how are these, because on that 6th day, they gathered twice as much, but it survived throughout the night because they knew in the morning was a new fresh start. It was a new fresh portion of manna that came down that was undefiled, and it was still good.
And it wouldn't go bad. So they knew that in the morning, that was a sign, is that this is the Shabbat. That's how he's literally given them a sign of how to know the Shabbat. Yeah. And it was on the 7th morning that bread, that double portion, wouldn't go bad or expire. And so he's saying, lay up for yourselves all that is left over to keep till morning. And they laid it up till morning. It did not stink and no worm was in it. And then he says, eat it today, for today is a Shabbat. Today you do not find it in the field. When is today? It was tomorrow. When he said tomorrow is a rest. So today was the tomorrow. Now it's today, which is what? After the 6th day. So the morning, okay? So you got morning, which starts today. He said, eat it today, for today is the Shabbat. Tomorrow is the Shabbat. So when morning comes, he says, eat it today. Right?
Yep. Clear as day. No pun intended.
Oh, we got one more verse.
Yeah, we do. Okay, this goes back to the, I believe, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is the Shemath, Exodus. Okay. And it came to be on the next day that Moshe sat to rightly rule the people, and the people stood before Moshe from morning until evening.
Okay. So on this one, so this is another chapter. It says, and it came to be, on the next day. So this is a whole nother scripture. On the next day, people stood before Moshe from morning until evening. So you got morning till evening. The next day started at the morning. So they stood from him from morning until evening on the next day. So it's starting the next day from morning time.
Shemath, Exodus 32, verses 5 and 6. And Aaron saw and built an altar before it. And Aaron called out and said, tomorrow is a festival to Yahuah. And they rose early on the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Yeah, to play.
So it says, when was the festival?
Tomorrow.
So tomorrow is the festival, which was when?
Rose up early the next day.
The next day. So the next day.
So they were already in the day portion, and we know that they build altars and, do the sacrifices and all that in the day portion of the period. And they clearly stated, okay, they were, put yourself in their shoes. They're doing these altars and building them. And Aaron says, hey, the festival to Yahuah is tomorrow. Okay. You fast forward, you're in the day portion, you go through the evening and rising up early the next day. That's starting the new day.
I may be wrong because I don't have the whole thing right here. I think it was later in the day when he's telling him this.
Probably.
I think so.
It seems like it, because it seems like afterwards, I don't think they'd be building altars in the morning. They'd probably be building them in the evening maybe or something. I don't know.
But I don't have that right in front of me.
I'd have to read the context of all this. These are just, and we're not trying to cherry pick these either. These are just kind of verses that that just talk about, the day, the night, and the evening kind of all in the same verses. I mean, clearly you need to study to show yourself a proof and go back and test us. And, we're open to being corrected. We really are. We all are seeking truth. And I believe the reason why we made this video is because other people are seeking truth. They might be straddling the fence, or they can clearly see it. And, sometimes we need that push from other believers for confirmation. Yahuah uses other believers, other siblings for confirmation on these matters.
To the Yahuah.
So all esteem to Yahuah, and we're firm. We know what we see, and we're not trying to push it, but we are obligated and to testify about our experience.
And you do need to read the full context, but obviously if we went through the context of every single verse on here, it would take a long time. Yeah. But go and read the whole, like, you have to read the whole chapter, even multiple chapters, to even get the whole picture. And we've read it over and over and over. So we're just putting the scriptures on here that speak of it. But yes, go back and read it like he said. Judah yahuah. Ready?
Nehemiah 7, verse 3. And I said to them, let not the gates of Jerusalem be open until the sun is hot. And while they are standing by, let them shut the doors and bolt them, and appoint guards from among the inhabitants of Jerusalem, each at his post, and each in front of his own house. And we know from right there too, you know, they shut the gates at the evening. And, you know, if the evening was the end of the Shabbath, why would they wait until when the sun is hot to open them?
Go back, honey. So we already know that there was already a general rule to not open the gate until sun is hot. So this is, yeah, so that was already a rule. So the gates were already shut at night. And then the following verse that we're going to see is saying why they didn't want the Shabbat to be profaned.
Okay, Nehemiah 13, starting at verse 18 through 21. Did not your fathers do the same, so that our Elohim brought all this evil on us, on this city? Yet you bring added wrath on Yisrael by profaning the Shabbath. And it came to be at the gates of Jerusalem, as it began to be dark before the Shabbath, that I commanded the gates to be shut, and commanded that they should not be opened till after the Shabbath. And I stood some of my servants at the gates, so that no burdens would be brought in on the Shabbath day. And the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares spent that night outside Jerusalem once or twice. And I warned them and said to them, why do you spend the night around the wall? If you do so, again I lay hands on you. From that time on, they came no more on the Shabbath.
All right, so it already began to be dark before the Shabbath, right? If the day starts at evening, then how is it already dark? So that's the first thing. So it was already getting dark. It was already dark or getting dark. And then we see previously that the gates were open till after the sun was hot. But right here it's saying the gates are not open till after the Shabbath. Why? Because if you read the whole chapter, not even just this chapter, you need to go back and read. Just start at Nehemiah 1, okay? Just read Nehemiah 1, and you're going to see how truth was brought back. They got the Torah back in, and then there's things that were taken away, and then you got people trying to profane the Shabbat and stuff like that. So, and then also he threatened to lay hands on them, which would not have been done on the Shabbat. It was customary to already close the gates at night. That had nothing to do with the Shabbat. It was already closed at night. They would open it after the sun was hot the next day. So again, we hear all these reasons of like, you know, we think, oh, this is talking about the Shabbat starts at night. It was already closed at night anyway, before this even happened. But you had people standing outside the wall, throwing things over the wall. Like, I mean, they were desperate. They wanted to get in, wanted to get their stuff in, and they wanted to set up shop.
They knew at the dawn of the days when, you know, you're able to do things, the Shabbat ended, and people are going to be, you know, just kind of like even us, like whenever the Shabbat end, we were so quick to go out and, you know, go get something to eat, or it was kind of like I felt free or something, you know, and it's just, that's just the time people do things, is after something's over, you know, and they go out and end up buying stuff and selling things, and these merchants wanted to be prepared. They wanted to be ready, so they could get some money,
right?
Yeah,
and
they had to travel,
like fishermen and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They had to travel
lot of fishermen,
far.
yeah. They would go fish at night too and stuff like that, just to have it fresh in the morning time, so people would buy it.
And they were trying to they didn't have electricity, so they're there. They were ready to set up shop. Like, think about, what are those places called? Flea markets.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They were ready. They didn't do it, but they were ready.
They wanted to. Like flea markets. Think about, man, that flea market we've went to before. It's so packed. But people get there early to set up their booths. It takes time to do all that. And they wanted to get in and start setting up everything. Well, now you're already profaning the Shabbat because you're there bringing in burdens. You're carrying burdens. You're carrying things that have to do with profit and money, buying and selling, because that's the whole thing about the Shabbat. Set aside your buying and your selling, your desires, which are the buying and the selling, the making money. Like, put that aside. Do not bring a burden in on the Shabbat. So they would shut the gates so no one could bring in the stuff for the Shabbat in the morning to buy and sell, because they're not shopping at nighttime. They're not on Amazon shopping. They're not shopping in Walmart. Like, they didn't have electricity. So it's daylight time. Let's do it. It's daylight. Let's go shop. Let's go work, you know.
The Shabbat is over.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you already read that?
Yes. Come here, Faith.
Okay. Leviticus 7, verse 15. As for the flesh of the slaughtering of his peace offering for thanksgiving, it is eaten the same day it is offered. He does not leave any of it until morning.
All right, so it says to eat it in the same day it is offered. Do not leave any until morning. So how can you eat the peace offering in the day, but not leave any in the morning if the day starts at night? So it's clearly saying that whole day you can eat it. The morning is the cutoff period.
Yep.
So you got
cutoff period and transitional to a new one.
All right, that one just speaks for itself.
Numbers 11, verse 32. And the people were up all that day and all that night, and the next day, and gathered the quail. He who had least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out from themselves all around the camp. That's a good one.
So they were up all that day and all that night and all the next day. So that day belonged to the night. All that day and all that night. So it's saying that and that. All that day, all that night. Same day. And then all the next day. So that next day started after the night.
Perfect.
1
Samuel 19, verse 10 through 11. And Shaul sought to smite the spear through David and into the wall, but he slipped away from the presence of Shaul. So he smote the spear into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. And Shaul sent messengers to David's house to watch him and to put him to death in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, informed him, saying, if you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you are put to death.
All right, so it says that he fled and escaped that night, and then he's to be put to death in the morning. But he's telling them, save your life tonight. Then tomorrow you are put to death. So you have night, but he's saying tomorrow you're going to be put to death. That's after night, not evening, night, okay? So you're going to be put to death tomorrow. So something's going to happen on the next day. So he's telling them to flee in the morning. When is morning? The Bokar, the light, the day. For tomorrow he would be killed.
And 1 Samuel 9:19. And Shemuel answered Shaul and said, I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today. And tomorrow I shall let you go and make known to you all that is in your heart. And 1 Samuel 9, verse 26. And they rose early, and it came to be about the dawning of the day that Shemuel called to Shaul on the roof, saying, rise, so that I send you on your way. And Shaul rose, and both of them went outside, he and Shemuel.
And then he's saying further on, eat with me today, and tomorrow they rose early, that it came to be the dawning of the day. So you have the dawning of the day, which is now tomorrow. Judah Yahuah, that one's really good.
Okay. 1 Samuel 30, verse 17. And David smote them from twilight until the evening of the next day, and none of them escaped except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled.
So you got from twilight to evening of the next day. If day was evening, if the day started in the evening, from evening till evening, the scripture wouldn't have to say evening of the next day. It would just say the next day. but it's literally telling them the evening of the next day, because it's not like it's on the next day, but it's not like it's a time period of that same day. So you got morning of the next day, evening of the next day, the night of the next day, because it's all in the same day. So it has to specify evening of the next day. If it was just started at evening, it would just say on the next day, which we would know starts in the evening if it did start in the evening. Judah, yahuah.
Okay, so 2 Samuel 24, starting at verse 13 through 15. God then came to David, and informed him, and he said to him, should 7 years of scarcity of food come to you in your land, or would you flee the 3 months before your enemies while they pursue you, or should there be 3 days plagues in your land? Now know and see what answer I take back to him who sent me. And David said to God, I am in a great trouble. Please let us fall into the hand of yahuah, for his compassion is great, but do not let me fall into the hand of man. And yahuah sent a plague upon Yisrael from the morning until the appointed time, and from Dan to Beersheba 70,000 men of the people died. 70,000 men of the people died. Yeah.
All right, so here we see that there's going to be 3-day plague, right? When did the plague start?
In the day.
In the morning.
Yeah.
It says that
transitional period that started first thing.
So he sent a plague upon Yasharal from the morning till the appointed time. You got your 3 days. So it started in the morning. And so he's just letting them know, this is when it starts. Now you got 3 days. So the 3 days starts.
It's just like in creation, it started the time.
Yeah.
It started the time. This is what they went by. They started from the morning, evening, and then morning came another day. There's 1. Morning, evening, came another day. There's 2, and so forth. Yochanan 20, verse 1. And on one of the Shabbath, Miriam from Magdala came to the tomb in the morning when it was still dim, and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. And Yochanan 20, verse 19. When therefore it was evening on that day, when it was evening on that day, one of the Shabbath, and when the doors were shut, where the Talmudim met for fear of the Yahudim, Yahusha came and stood in the midst and said to them, peace to you.
So we see here that you have morning. It was still dim, still dark. It was morning time, but the sun hadn't fully risen yet.
Transitional period.
And you have evening. Now there's more verses that have to do with the Shabbat and Matthew and John and stuff. We might do a different part on that because that might take a little bit longer to explain about when they would go in the morning and it was now the first day of the week. And so yeah, that might be a whole nother video. But here we see that you have the morning and you have the evening on that day. It's all the same day. You got the evening of that day. If the evening starts a new day, it's not going to be all on the same day. Morning and evening were on the same day in here.
Okay, this is Lamentations 3, verse 22 through 23. The kindness of yahuah, for we have not been consumed, for his compassions have not ended. They are new every morning.
So his mercies are new every bokar, every morning. The morning starts the new day, and how his mercies are new every day.
Yonah, chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. And yahuah Elohim appointed a plant and made it come up over Yonah to be a shade for his head, to deliver him from his discomfort. And Yonah greatly rejoiced over the plant. Where's ours?
The plant?
Yeah.
Oh, the shade?
Yeah. But as morning dawned the next day, Elohim appointed a worm, which attacked the plant so that it withered.
All right, so as morning dawned, the next day came.
Yochanan 6:16 through 17. And when evening came, his Talmudim went down to the sea, and entering into the boat, they were going over the sea toward 𐤉𤄄𐤅, and it had already become dark, and Yahusha had not yet come to them. On the next day, the crowd that was standing on the other side of the sea saw that there was no other boat there except that one into which his Talmudim had entered, and that Yahusha had not entered the boat with his Talmudim, but his Talmudim went away alone. So it was evening when his Talmudim went into the sea, and entering into the boat, they were going over the sea towards 𐤉𤄄𐤅. So they were traveling by night in the evening. Well, they traveled in the evening, which obviously led into the night, and it had already become dark, and Yahusha had not yet come to them. But on the next day, the crowd was standing on the other side of the sea. So these people were already in, I guess, 𐤉𤄄𤅅, which was where they were traveling, that there was no other boat there except the one. So they only seen the one boat, and that was what the Talmudim were in. And he had entered, and that Yahusha had not entered the boat with his Talmudim. So they knew that he didn't enter that boat that night either, that same night. But all this is taking place there, and the investigation of all this is taking place the next day. So if evenings started a new day, why would they say on the next day? Or why wouldn't they would make it clear that they're doing their investigations at night, but they're doing it in the morning time, in the day, the Bakar. Acts 16, verse 9 through 11. And in the night a vision appeared to Shaul, a man of Macedonia, was standing begging him and saying, Come over to Macedonia and help us. Come over to Macedonia and help us. And when he saw the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the Adon had called us to bring the good news to them. And therefore, sailing from Taros, we ran a straight course to Samothrace, and the next day came to Neapolis.
So, and in that night, you got night, right? And then you got the next day came. So you got night comes after evening. So we see that the next day came after night. Not that the day started at night, but the next day came after night. So it didn't come after the evening. You got evening, then you got night, and then now the next day follows. So, Judah for that.
Acts 23, verse 31 through 32. So the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Shaul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the next day they left the horsemen to go on with him and returned to the barracks. That's a good one. I mean, they brought him by night, but the next day, that's when they travel. That shows right there that, they really couldn't travel at night unless they had like torches or something. They didn't have like flashlights or street lights. So they had to travel the next day in the morning.
But still, again, just like the last verse, we see by night, and then the next day follows. So again, it's not evening, and then the day changed. But you have evening, now you got night, and then now you got the next day that follows that.
Bro, yahuah.
Judah yahuah. All right, this one's a big one too. It has to do with Passover. Someone actually wrote in our comments today, and they were wondering about this verse. And so let's just see if we can try and clarify it a little bit.
So Shamath, Exodus 12, starting at verse 8 through 10. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boil at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave it until morning. And what remains of it until morning you are to burn it with fire.
So right here, just without even any notes added on this, still we have the morning. That's the cutoff for when they had to eat it all, They had to finish everything before the morning time, which is the new day. From what I see is the new day.
Leviticus 23, starting at verse 5 through 7. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between the evenings, is the Pesach to yahuah. And on the 15th day of this month is the festival of Matzot to yahuah. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. On the first day you have a Kodesh gathering. You do no servile work.
So we have Passover, that the Passover is to be eaten at night. So between the evenings, which is like before it gets evening time, they would slaughter the lamb, right? And then they would eat it that night. So you have to go back and read context. If we just take one verse, which says between the evenings, some people think that it starts at evening Passover and then that night is unleavened bread. But it's telling you in Exodus that you eat that flesh on that night, okay? With unleavened bread. So you already have your unleavened bread count already, but the next day is not until when the day to where you don't work starts, which is on the first day of unleavened bread. But you got your count that starts that night of Passover. That's day 1, okay? So now we got on the 14th day of the month, between the evenings, you kill the lamb. That night you eat the lamb with the first day of unleavened bread, but on the 15th day of the month is unleavened bread, matzot, right? So 7 days you eat unleavened bread. Passover night, you started your first count. Again, you got to read, there's multiple verses on this, so like you got to read all of it to see the bigger picture. 7 days you eat it. On the first day, you have a Kodesh gathering. That's the first day, which is the 15th. You have a Kodesh gathering, not Passover, but the 15th. 14th day, between the evenings, you kill it. So it's impossible to celebrate Passover in the evening of the 14th and eat it the night. Okay,
This is important. It just so we're talking about the 14th day, the 14th evening, which is Passover.
And the night you eat it that night on the 14th.
That evening. We're talking about that evening. It's impossible to celebrate Passover in the evening of the 14th and eat the meat that night if the evening starts a new day on the 15th. So if we're commanded to eat something in the evening of that night on the 14th, it wouldn't be the 14th anymore. It would be considered the 15th. If you go by the logic, the evenings start the new day. So technically, this is where it gets tricky and confusing, because if you go by evening to evening, in this portion right here on the 14th and 15th, it would be considered basically the same day. You'd be either doing an extra day for unleavened bread, or you would be doing the same thing within the same night.
Yeah, so like these are the notes I had right here, but so you got 14th day is Passover. You got the evening, right? So you kill the lamb between the evenings. You eat it at night. And then you got the 15th day is unleavened bread, which starts the next day. You have your gathering, all right, which is a Shabbath rest. So if evening starts the day, then that would make Passover 2 days, because you're still eating the Passover at night, which now if it starts in the evening, you're now eating it on the 14th and the 15th. So now you're actually adding, and then you eat it until the 21st day. You have to eat it from Passover night, and you got 7 days until the 21st day at evening. So the evening cuts off when you quit eating the unleavened bread. Okay, so you got 14th is Passover. So that night you eat the lamb. And then you eat your first day of unleavened bread, okay? So it's from evening to evening. So you eat your unleavened bread, and then you got 7 days. So on the 21st day, you don't eat it after that evening, all right, which is still the 21st. You don't eat it after that. The evening is the cutoff period, because that still belongs to that day. So if you start your day in the evening, well, now you're going to be eating 8 days of unleavened bread. So you can count it up. So the 14th day comes first, then it's evening, then comes night, then the next day, sunrise, the same as creation in Genesis. So, yeah, that one's kind of big, which there's multiple verses you can read on that, and you'd have to study it out. But you would be putting the 14th into the 15th if it starts in the evening. It's clearly separate. 14th day, you kill the lamb, you eat the Passover at night. The 15th is a whole nother day. You have your Kodesh gathering. That's your second day of unleavened bread. And then you got the next day. That's your third day. Next day, fourth day. Next day, fifth day. Next day, sixth day. Next day is the 21st, but you do not eat it after that evening. But again, it says that the Passover is to be eaten that night of the 14th. So if it's now the 15th, well, now it's no longer the 14th. And it's confusing. Like,
it is confusing, but like I said, I mean, like, even it was confusing to me when my wife explained this to me, but when I read it for myself and like really comprehended for a second, oh, that's like two things in one evening. Wait, how does that work? You know, it'll click, it'll click. But in another example too, the Mashiach, he ate the Passover meal at evening time, and got arrested, whatnot, and it was in the day portion that he got, crucified. So it was a Shabbath. So
yeah, it was.
He didn't get crucified that same night, let alone eat Passover that same night. It didn't all happen at one time, and he's a good example for us. Did we do this one?
That's Atonement. And this is a big one. Really big one right here is the Day of Atonement. Because a lot of people say that Shabbat is from evening to evening because of this verse.
Yeah. Leviticus 23, verse 32. It is a Shabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beans on the 9th day of the month at evening. From evening to evening you observe your Shabbath.
This was a big one for us because we thought, like this is where people say the Sabbath is established from evening to evening. If that's the case, why are we not afflicting our beings every Shabbat? We're not called to afflict our beings every Shabbat. That's only the Day of Atonement. You're to be feasting, celebrating Rumamu Yahuah on the Shabbat.
Basically, yeah.
For real. Rumamu Yahuah, and you celebrate. Go back and read Nehemiah. These are times to be rejoicing. The only time you are to afflict yourselves, yes, you should do His will and stuff like that on the Shabbat, whole nother topic, but it's not a day of affliction. It's a day of feasting. It's a day of rest, it's a day of rest and rejoicing in Him, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't fast and afflict yourselves. This is the Day of Atonement, one time a year, big, big, big day, all right? So you work during the day. At evening, okay, you work during the day, now you got evening. Now it's time to afflict yourselves. Now you have the Day of Atonement. The next day is considered which is the biggest day of the year. You fast that whole day, no work, absolutely no work, okay, until that next evening. So now you have your 24-hour fast. It's not just a evening fast or just a morning fast. This is like, you work that day, you fast, and then next day you do no work, and until that evening, right? Mm-hmm. You afflict yourselves and you observe your Shabbat. So on the 10th day, I might be missing some verses right here on my thing, but on the 10th day, hold on, the truck is passing. All right, so here's the thing. It was said on the 9th at evening, you fast, right? Then Day of Atonement is not until the 10th day. So you can't have the evening of the 9th, you start your fast, but yet now at evening, it's now the 10th. Now you got the evening of the 9th and the 10th, and like Day of Atonement is not until the 10th. So if day starts in the evening, how do you have at evening on the 9th, you start your fast, but yet now you're into Day of Atonement? Unless you go back until the 8th day at evening, and now you're going to be fasting way longer than what it's supposed to be. You're now extending your fasting hours. If you're saying the day starts in the evening, you have to go back to the 8th to start that evening, which is the 9th, which is the evening of the 9th. It's confusing if you start in the evening. I don't even understand how that would even work out. So you got the 9th. Let's just say today's the 9th. At evening tonight, I fast. Tomorrow is the Day of Atonement. So I afflict myself tomorrow on the Day of Atonement until evening. That's when they would do all their atonement. So the Day of Atonement is on the 10th. No work on the 10th day. From the previous evening to that evening. Day of Atonement is not at evening on the 9th day. Only the fast is. So why would y'all have us start the fast on the 9th day at evening if the day starts at evening? Now you're going to be on the 10th day. Again, it's very confusing if the day starts at evening, like how all that would work out, because he's specific with his dates. You can't have the evening of the 9th and the 10th. Like, you got to have one or the other. And again, think about it. Like, go back and read it and count your afflicting times. And we haven't done Day of we did do Day of Atonement. We got baptized that day.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how we worked out our fasting, because you would have to start on the 8th at evening to have the 9th. And now you're fasting the evening of that, and then you're fasting of the 9th and the 10th.
It doesn't add up to a full day of fasting either, I don't think.
You'd be fasting longer.
Yeah, that too.
Way longer than your evening to evening.
So again, Shabbat Shalom. When we're making this is the Shabbath. And we just wanted to make this for encouragement for those who are straddling the fence, whether when the day starts or when we're supposed to start the Shabbath and when we're supposed to end it. For me personally, I'm convinced that, Shabbat starts in the morning. It starts in the Bakar and ends in the next Bakar. And scripture just spoke to me and brought us both out, from a deep hole. And, we feel like we're supposed to be children of light, not darkness. And the light starts in the light, and the darkness starts at the dark. We thank you guys for listening, and we're sorry if it was confusing a little bit, but like I said, we would like to encourage you to just kind of go and study the words for yourself. I mean, there's big ones like Nehemiah, there's the Passover. Those are kind of the big ones, and obviously the creation,
Day of Atonement,
and the Day of Atonement. Those are the big main ones that kind of help justify, evening to evening observance of the Shabbat. But we can see different scriptures that that everybody knows when the days would start and when they would end. And we would just encourage you guys just to set your lenses aside and kind of look for yourself just from our perspective, from Yahuah's word, his perspective. And, if we're wrong as well, let us know. Or if there's verses that we didn't cover, write them in the comments, get interactive. And we want to edify, iron sharpening iron. We want to be humble with each other and build each other up. And just be open, because in the end, we all know Hashatan has done a work in trying to deceive the world, deceiving the nations. And we've been so far off from Yahuah's word, but he's still patient with all of us. And we're all held to the amount of light that we've been shown. And we've been shown this from Yahuah. So thank y'all.
And I would like to just say one little thing again about, I know we're talking about Day of Atonement, but go back and read all the other Shabbats, all the other feast days, appointed days.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one that says evening to evening. Mm-hmm. Okay, you got unleavened bread that says eat the unleavened bread and eat in the evening, but that's because that's the day of Passover and that starts your count. So he's very specific on why he says what he says at the evening or from that evening to evening, but then you still have your, and then you got your Day of Atonement. That's the only one that says afflict yourselves from evening to evening, to keep it that way. Because if you're going to start every Shabbat from evening to evening because of that verse, then you're going to have to also afflict yourself for every Shabbat. And we're not called to do that.
Not only that, it kind of goes back to, like I said, the T-posts, if you're using the evening to evening verse just for that one verse and applying that to everything else, like that's your clarification for everything else. You're building a doctrine off of that one verse, and it's just, you're basically moving 49 T-posts to line up with just one T-post that's crooked, instead of moving that one T-post to line up with the other 49 to have 50 perfect ones.
Yes. And we might do a part 2.
I think so.
There's a lot more verses to cover.
There's a lot to cover.
We did, we were how when Yah shows you something and you're just on fire and you just it's so clear and everything's just you can just spit it out and stuff. And that's the way it was with this. When we were learning all this in the notes and just
it really shows me too, how much I need to restudy this and kind of go over it and let it be fluent, through this video, it was a little vulnerable for me personally, because my wife is the one who found this stuff out.
I was convinced through a couple verses, but I never went back to it and kind of re-looked this over, so I believe he uses people to expose, us in a sense, expose myself to like being humiliated in a way on, it really showed me I wasn't ready to show myself approved, to be ready to give an answer all the time. And that's what I learned from this as well. And there was a lot of verses too for like, the Mashiach and everything that were a big deal too, that prove the sunrise that starts in the day.
Yeah, we'll have to do that on another video because that's good stuff. Those verses are good. But I mean, like you were saying though, I mean, even for me going over this, we did it the night before last because like I said, that lady had reached out or I talked to her and she was like, yeah, definitely get scriptures together. I told her I'll make a video and I was like, hey, why don't we just post it on YouTube and not be a teaching, but just to show like what we saw, let them study it out. But going back over, I was like, oh man, like months can pass by and you kind of like start to forget. So that's why it's very important to like always refresh ourselves in scripture and like even on these things that are really important because sometimes we can forget. And that's why they would even read the Torah every Shabbat, like
redo, repeat. Yep.
So it's important, so we just want to encourage you guys.
Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
To always keep these things in the forefront of our mind and to study them. And to like, hey, when you have a day, you're like, what do we do? What do we do on the Shabbat? Like, hey, let's talk about the things that we might not understand. Let's go over some very important things to edify ourselves and to write it on the tablets of our minds and our hearts. And let's study this stuff out. Because the next thing that we're going to be studying is, that we don't fully understand yet is because we go off of the Zadok calendar, the Zadok calendar that goes by the sun, moon, and stars. The Zadok priestly calendar.
Yeah, and the intercalation. We believe in the 7-year intercalation.
Because their priestly calendar was only for 6 years, and then they intercalate. And the lady that I was talking to in that fellowship, which she lives like an hour from us, but we haven't met yet. They keep the Zadok calendar, but they're a week off. And see, people like intercalate at different times, but the priestly course was only for 6 years. So like, well, what do you do after the 6 years? So like, y'all works in sevens. Anyway, a whole nother video, but, so they would intercalate on that 7th year, you intercalate, you give your 7-day of Shabbat, and then you start back over and the whole cycle starts over. But the thing that we're going to be studying on is, that we haven't really been doing yet, honestly, this whole time is doing the first day of the months.
Yeah.
We don't really understand that on the first day of the month.
The new months and celebrating that.
Like, what do you do?
If anybody knows, we're supposed to celebrate new months or something like that. So
every new month you're still like, some people say you can't work, some people say you can, but you just celebrate it. You are to blow the trumpet. But yeah, we haven't been doing that. We know it, we know of it, but we have not sought that out yet that much because there's only so much time in a day and on Shabbats and what to study and to learn and to unlearn and stuff. So it can get a little overwhelming, but y'all knows that with all of us, we're seeking truth out and we want to learn and we think we learned something new and then he has to like change our lenses a little bit and stuff, but yeah, okay, that's enough.
Thank you guys.
And Shabbat Shalom. So my husband just brought this to my attention to make a little clarification. There was someone in our comments who had a question about this and wanted to talk about preparation day. And that's a good point because typical people work on the 6th day, like it's commanded, right? Not everyone is fortunate enough to get off early. Like me, I get off on Friday at 2:00, which is a huge benefit. Okay. I get to go grocery shopping, bring the groceries home, cook dinner. I was very stressed out, very anxious because I had to hurry up. I had to rush. I had to get everything done before sunset. I mean, sunset was happening like at 4:00. Okay. And my husband was on his way home one night. And this is when I first found out that the Sabbath was morning, right? But I still honored the fact that he was keeping it in the evening. And so I was cooking dinner. In the middle of cooking dinner, it got dark. I went to the grocery store. I brought groceries home, put them up, went to go help my grandma, and got home, had to cook dinner, had to clean, We have 3 dogs, had to cook dinner. Okay. And so it doesn't make any sense that preparation day would be on a day that people work, but yet Sabbath starts in the evening. And it just makes so much more sense that he would allow you to work, to get off work, to come home and to cook. I mean, I don't know how they did it then without electricity, but I mean, we have stoves and stuff. Like if you have to cook things on the fire, you can roast a fire at night. But anyway, that is a good point, and that's something that we wanted to clarify. It makes it a lot more challenging to work a full-time job, to get off. Like my husband was getting off at 5, getting home at 5, and 5:30. So it's very challenging. And his boss at the time, which he doesn't work there anymore, but his boss at the time kept the Shabbat. I mean, like that's pushing it, if you ask me. Like, to say you have to hurry up and scramble and now you're panicking and like, let's get everything done before the Shabbat starts. You know, that's not a restful entering into the Shabbat. So now it's just so much more shalom, so much more to get off work, get everything done. We get everything cooked for that night. We can have dinner. We can have Shabbat lunch or, food for the whole next day. And then we can just chill out and we can relax and then really rest and take away all the cares of the world and everything to enter in that next morning. So it's a good point, and thank you for asking, and I just wanted to clarify that.